Welcome back, MLB Data Warehouse Podcast. What's even the point of saying that intro, though? I mean, you know what you're listening to. You clicked it. It's not like we're on TV and people might just have the thing on without watching it, and then they turn and look and wonder what they're watching. I don't know. Intros are kind of silly, but what else do you do? Jump right into it, I guess. So yeah, it's January 12th. A couple more team previews today. It's just me flying solo. Somewhat almost regretting doing these in podcast form because it is extra 40 minutes here today. But no, it's good. I'll be happy I did it when it's over. I'm sure some people are enjoying them. Good for the freebie people too. You can kind of get my takes on all the teams without having to pay me. But for the whole thing, for whole projections, a lot of stuff, tools, doing a lot of stuff. Projections are flying out. Other systems are coming online. I'm going to be enhancing mine. Probably even going to make a new system. I'll have to come up with some cute name for it, right? It'll be like we looked at the projection accuracy last week. There's a podcast about it, the one right below this feed, two below, I think, where we looked at the different systems and how accurate they are in what ways. So now I have the idea of let's take those results and let's make one projection system to put all the best things together. Now, not an original idea, of course. ATC does that. So this is going to be like another Inception kind of thing where ATC is right there near I'd say overall, if you had to just pick one, to go with. So what we found that like Oopsie and ATC were best for hitters, and then mine and ATC were best for pitchers, I think. But if you had to just pick one system to go off of, if you just want to keep it simple, ATC would seem to be the one. Now, ATC, remember, is an aggregate of other systems. So what I'll be doing is like aggregating the aggregate. So like ATC is, I don't know what it is exactly. There's more systems than I even know, I'm sure, in it. But just for an example, like ATC is probably 30% of the bat and 10% steamer and so on and so forth. So then I'll be taking ATC and then I'll be putting it back in with the bat and with mine. So it's like, it almost doesn't even make sense to do because I'm like aggregating an aggregation. It's like, remember I have like an expected WOBA stat, and it's like, we went through that whole Inception thing last summer when I made that. Aggregates of aggregates, so that'll be fun, though. Doesn't matter how you do it. The goal is to get the most accurate projections. So I'm going to try that. And then I will, I do want to draft. I want to draft pretty heavily on projections going forward. I've been kind of just firing from the hip with the drafts I have. I don't have a lot of patience in the leagues I do, the NFBC leagues. Like I more do those just kind of for something to do for fun in the winter and to kind of familiarize myself. I don't take them all that seriously, which you can see in my results because I'm a big loser. But if I was taking everything very seriously, I probably would be. You kind of have your guys that go too far projections wise. They just kind of go with the projections. They just become like a computer. They become a machine. And you got the other guys who use them a little bit, but really kind of just go with what they know with their own analysis, their own stuff. And which way's right, I don't know. A mixture of both is usually the answer. If the answer in real life for pretty much everything is usually somewhere in the middle. Not for everything, but some things are just true no matter what you think, and some things are very wrong no matter what you think. But yeah, we're gonna do that. So more projection stuff coming out. Big team previews. I even have the idea to make like a PDF, like a draft guide PDF with everything. So I really got to get moving, but we got to finish these team previews first and foremost because we've been going at them since October. I think I put the Rockies one out in like the first week of November or something like that. And I've got like 6 more to write, but there's a bunch more published. So we're going to get 2 done today. So we start with the Astros. And we're going to do just the highlights, kind of the things that I think stood out the most, and just kind of picking and choosing as we go in this podcast. But if you want the full details, write-ups, projections on every player, MLBDataWarehouse.com is where you need to be. And you'll have to be the subscriber there, $12 a month for now. That is going up. I'm going to raise that price any day now. I should probably give people a warning and get that boost of people jumping in before the people that are on the fence, tell them that I'm about to raise prices and then push them off the fence in my direction. But this isn't going to be $12 a month for very long. I don't think it's going to come up a little bit. But yeah, the Astros roster missed the playoffs last year, so that's different. They had been to however many straight AL championship series. I believe that ended just last year, I think. And again, I don't pay as much attention to the actual teams and the actual results as I do like the individual players and stuff. But yeah, the dynasty seems to be over. Correa long gone, and then Altuve. Well, okay, Correa was gone. That was a confusing thing to say. The Astros dynasty, right, was like Cole, Verlander, Correa in his prime, Altuve, Bregman, Jordan, Alvarez when he was just coming up. Who else? Michael Brantley. Think of those really good Astros teams from like 2016 to 2022 or whatever. And so Altuve is still here. Jordan Alvarez is still here. But, Verlander and Cole are still around. But it's not the same. The core aged out. And now Correa is back. But with what left, we'll find out. I actually kind of like him. But Altuve is going to be 36 this year. Jordan can't stay on the field. So, and the pitching is they just haven't developed pitching. They thought they had some stuff with McCullers and Javier and, Hunter Brown worked out, but it's just not a great roster right now. You could see them making the playoffs for sure, but this doesn't seem to be a World Series contender. We did the organizational rankings prospect-wise, me and Tim. I mean, it's totally Tim's work. I did the podcast with him, though. And the Astros are 28th on there, so it's not a great place to be for the Astros. Now, Houston, pretty big market, a lot of history, a lot of fans, I'm sure, after all that success they've had. So wouldn't be surprising to see them spend some money, get back in it. But this isn't a situation where the next round, the next elite core seems to be coming. Of course, Tim could be wrong. Prospect people could be wrong, but we'll see. It's not a great situation for the Astros right now. So we'll talk about some highlights here. I don't really feel like Jordan Alvarez is going to be one that I am going to talk about on this podcast because what do you think I'm going to say, right? He's really good. He just needs to stay healthy. The ADP, I suppose, would be an interesting thing because he is at 41 right now. I really like looking at the chart rather than the raw number, but you can see it's kind of bending back down. If you're watching this on video, I'm showing the ADP trend for Jordan. He started around 35 to 40, kind of went up to 45, and now bending a little bit down, although that looks to be just because one rogue guy, January 11th, picked him at 25, which is always a bad idea. You should never, just general draft point. This guy must have really wanted Jordan Alvarez, but it was a 50s draft, so it was only 12 teams. So why not just wait? I guess I don't know. Well, I do know. He was ADP 25, which would mean he was I guess he had the number one pick, right? That would be the 21. Yeah, that'd be the first pick of the third round. So I was going to say, why not wait? But in this case, this guy, Jordan at 25, his next pick would have been at 40, whatever it is, like mid 40s. With the first pick in the 12-team snake draft, you have 1, and then you have 24 and 25, and then you have 25 plus 23. I think that's right, like 48, 49 or something like that. So probably wasn't coming back to him. So I guess that's what that's about. And I guess that's kind of why these ADP things are a little bit unreliable, because you have situations like that. Like, I'm sure this guy didn't really value Jordan Alvarez as a 25th best player in the draft, but it was, I want him. I think it's a good price this year, getting him in the third round. So do I take him at 25 or not get him at all? And that's the kind of decision you have to make. So with all that kind of thought through, it doesn't look as ridiculous as it is. Now, I wouldn't do that. If I like a guy, I would rather just not get him. How can you like a guy that much, especially someone who's so known? Like, everybody knows the story with Jordan Alvarez, but whatever. Obviously, that could pay off just fine. But so the point of that being this curve that is showing on the ADP thing probably wouldn't be bending down if not for that pick. Now, what I'm going to do soon, as soon as the auction drafts results start coming out, which I think should be soon. I think some people are doing it in FBC auction drafts. I'm going to put auction dollar values on this dashboard, which is much more telling, right? Because you don't have to reach in this way. You can certainly, if there might be a bidding war that sends somebody up, two guys really want the guy and it goes up $5-6 more than average, but you don't have the situation where I only have a chance of getting this guy if I take him right now. Like, the auction values give you a much better idea of what people actually, how drafters actually value. So that'll be a good addition. But after I just said I wasn't going to talk about Jordan, here we are talking about him for 3 minutes or whatever. But it's just a question of, do you think he can stay healthy enough to warrant your third or fourth round pick? That's pretty good price. I mean, he is a first round talent. Like, if you guaranteed that every player would play 155 games, right? Like, just get rid of the injuries, turn injuries off in real life. Alvarez is probably a second round pick, the steals and stuff. So my 600 plate appearance projection for him would be 31 bombs, a 289 batting average, and 6 steals. A $9.55 player. That would make him the number 6. As we find a massive bug. Oh man. Okay. Right now, DJ LeMahieu is the 5th best player on the 600 plate appearance projections. Okay. Something going on there, but ignore that, please. Act like you didn't see that. I will fix that massive bug in there. But if you thought he'd stay healthy, then you could even justify a first round pick, honestly, by the projections. I mean, he's only behind Ohtani, Judge, Soto, Acuna, and Witt in standard roto stuff. Okay, that's the question. Do you want to take him in the third round, take the discount, and just hope he stays healthy, or is it too much risk for you to take? Because if you lose your, he's not a first or second round pick like he was last year, but if you lose your third or fourth pick, which is probably your second or third hitter, and you only get 100 games out of them, like that's hard to come back from. So that's a question for you. I'm not going to pontificate, make any guesses about. I'm not going to tell you how many games he'll play, but I'm going to say the right projection is probably 550 plate appearances or something. Even in that, his batting average is so good, the OBP is so good, 30 bombs projected, even in like probably with one IL stint minimum IL stint built in or something there. So tough call. Good luck making it. Jeremy Pena, breakout fantasy season in 2025, 17 homers, 20 steals. It actually wasn't. Those numbers weren't higher significantly than 2024. Pena hit 15 homers in 2024, stole the same 20 bases. Difference was that his batting average went up to 304. So his 3 previous batting averages in his career were 251, 267, 266. And then he piles on 48 points to that last year to be a really useful fantasy player. Question being, like, what's the batting average this year? Is he all of a sudden like a Trey Turner kind of player where you really think he's going to be a 280 batting average like floor? The XBA last year was 265. The K rate was 17%, which is fine, but not like, this isn't a single digit thing like Jacob Wilson or something going on. BABIP was 345. Seemed pretty fortunate. And projections will always kind of be, you can look at BABIP and line drive rates and stuff, but if you just look at the projections on a guy like this and see what the batting average says, it gives you a pretty good idea of how much luck went into last year. So I am lower. My batting average projections do seem to work significantly different than the other systems. A lot of times you'll see what we're seeing here on the screen if you're watching, where the other systems all agree. Steamer at 272 for Pena's batting average, the bat at 273, and Oopsie at the same 273. I'm at 267, which is only 5 or 6 points less. It's not a big difference, but I don't agree, I guess. These aren't my hand. When I say I don't agree, like the code I wrote doesn't agree. It's not like I actually picked that number out, but I'm lower on it. The sluggings are all pretty same. Everybody's pretty close. So it looks like Pena is an 18, 19, 20, 21 home run hitter with high teen steals and a 270 batting average. Like, that is what the projections would say on aggregate. The price is a little bit more than you'd like for that, I think. He's a 90, ADP's 98. Shortstop wise, it's very deep. He's going at number 10 among shortstops. And, he's ahead of Corey Seager, Trevor Story, Bo Bichette, Adamas Swanson. He's right behind Perdomo, Betts, Abrams. A lot of the upside at shortstop is gone by the time the top 4, 5, or 6, or maybe 7 are off the board. I mean, you have huge upside with Witt, Ellie, Gunnar, Lindor. Maybe even cut it off. Witt, Ellie, Gunnar. I'd say those are the upside guys. And then the very good guys, safe guys, Lindor, Turner, Nito. Abrams bets you could throw in there too. And then it's like a little bit, okay, well, we really don't have a lot of shine here with Perdomo, Pena as this kind of tier 4 or whatever we're going to call that. Solid players, unlikely to burn you, but do I want to use a top 100 pick on a guy I don't think can hit, that I don't think can really reach 25? We'll call it 50. Let's say home runs plus steals. I kind of want all my hitters in my top 100 picks, my top 5, 6, 7 hitter picks. Like, give me either elite batting averages or give me guys that I can easily get 50 home runs plus steals from. And I don't know. It's safety. It's really just depending on how you're trying to draft. Pena's safe, but I don't see the upside really to warrant the increased price on him. I think the batting average is going to come down, as we saw with the projections there. Yainer Diaz is kind of the opposite. I think his batting average is going to come up. If you look at his whole story for fantasy, the appeal for him the last couple of years since he took over after they finally got rid of Martin Maldonado, his appeal has been he plays a lot because he DHs some, and he hits for high batting average, which you do not get at catcher very often. So in 2023, his first kind of full season in the majors, 282 batting average. 2024, he hit 299. He was adding 23 homers and 16 homers in those 2 seasons, so that was pretty nice as well. Last year, he hits 20 homers again, plays 143 games, which is nice, but the 256 batting average. Now, his BABIP fell to 277. Sweet spot rate, 36%. That's usually been a little bit higher for him. But the K rate stayed really nice at 16.8%. That was actually his lowest of his career, just under 17%. But a wild swinger, right? I mean, this guy, I always start thinking of like promiscuity when I say wild swingers, which I say a lot, but we're not talking about his sexual preferences. Can't speak for that. Maybe he is a bit wild in that regard. Many such cases, but he swings very aggressively, 59.5% swing rate. And we've talked about a lot of these guys. I think we opened this whole series up with Ezekiel Tovar. I guess we opened up with Hunter Goodman probably, but I actually think I started with Tovar. We've got just these guys, Pete Crow Armstrong, Javi Baez, obviously 2 different players there, but Salvador Perez, these guys that are just swinging 60% of the time or so. And what you get from that is the one thing you definitely get is no walks. You got a 3 or 4% walk rate on Yainer Diaz. In standard roto, that doesn't matter. You don't really care about that. OBP leagues, points leagues, that hurts. So big difference there in his value between those different league types. But what also you seem to get, it doesn't have to happen every time. I do have the chase leaders on the screen now. You get these cold streaks and these inconsistencies in batting average, because what you end up doing is swinging a ton, which means you're chasing a ton. If you're swinging 60% of the time, you have a high chase rate. Like, it's unavoidable. Everybody here, everybody with a super high swing rate is going to have a high chase rate. And it kind of even exasperates itself. It kind of like snowballs, because after pitchers realize you're swinging at everything, then they throw you fewer pitches in the zone, because why wouldn't they? And then your chase rate has the ability, at least it has the possibility to go up because you're seeing more pitches out of the zone. So Diaz was second in the league in chase rate at 44.5% to Javier Baez. And that's what's going to happen, a 59.5% swing rate. And that's what we've seen his whole career. So I don't think it's going to change. It's fine. Since he makes good contact and hits plenty of line drives and some home runs, like it's not a killer, but it does lead to some cold streaks and some downside in batting average when he goes on these extended things. So the story with him, the one thing I have noticed in the ADP is that there's a massive cliff, ADP wise at least, in catcher. So you have Raleigh, Contreras, Langoliers, Rice, Goodman, Ramirez, Baldwin, Perez, Smith, and Yainer Diaz as the top 10 catchers. Those guys are all inside the top 120 ADP. Yainer Diaz was at 115 at the time I took the screenshot. After that, there's like a 40 pick drop off to the next group: Rutschman, Kirk, Basayo. So I really like before drafts to draw those big cliffs, draw a line where you think the last guy at the position before a big fall off is, and try to get one at each position before that line. So if you're waiting on catcher, Diaz makes a lot of sense as like, let me grab him as late as I think I can get him, but I'll make sure to get him because I kind of want to get in before this cliff, because then, the next guy behind you might take Adley Rutschman right away because he's panicking at catcher, and all of a sudden he's reaching on that. So that's the story with me. I'm not buying Cal Raleigh this year, I don't think. So I probably will end up waiting. I'm fine with reaching a bit, paying a kind of a bigger price on Langoliers, Rice, or Augustin Ramirez. But I think more often in my draft, you'll see me taking, Baldwin, Smith, Diaz, or just waiting, going for Teal or Basayo or Alvarez or something late. So those are the three first ones I've spent plenty of time talking about them. We'll leave Altuve for you to read about on MLBDataWarehouse.com. Let's go down to Isaac Paredes. He's always fun to talk about. Back on the Astros. Still so far, there's some talks about him maybe getting traded, I think. I mean, this guy's been passed around, right? He played for the Rays, Tigers, Cubs for like 2 seconds, and then the Astros. So they traded him. Was that part of the Kyle Tucker trade? Was it like Cam Smith and Paredes or was that something else? I don't remember. I'm curious about that. Paredes, Cubs, Astros trade, Google search, enter mechanical keyboard. Astros deal Tucker to Cubs for Paredes, Wesneski, and Smith. So yes, I was right. He was a part of that trade. So yeah, I think he got moved to the Cubs at the deadline 1 year, and then in that offseason he got traded. I believe that's right. My memory's not very good though, but last year with the Astros, 20 bombs. I mean, it was a match made in heaven, right? If you don't know about Paredes, I guess I should somewhat talk to the lowest common denominator here. People that don't know as much. I can probably stop showing my face here on the podcast, right? So we get rid of my face on the video version. But Paredes last year got hurt. He only played 102 games, missed a lot of time. Hit 20 home runs in that time. I mean, it was a 4.6% home run rate, which is, when I say home run rate, I mean home runs per plate appearances. So he would have been getting to, he played 2/3 of a season, add 50 games onto that. You can almost take his home run total, divide it by 2 and add on to that. He would have been messing around with a 30 homer season again. He was hitting 257 with the Astros, 354 on base percentage. He's always been low K, high walk. He's patient, just very good with the bat. It just doesn't have the physical tools to really be a total slugger. But in Houston, it's just a great fit for him. He really sucked in Wrigley. Houston's the best possible team for him, you could say. Maybe like Houston, maybe Boston, maybe Cincinnati or something like that. But for that reason, I don't know why the Astros would trade him. But for now, like, he's someone to know. He's definitely a top, I don't know, what's he, a top dozen third baseman or something like that? You really could see him hitting 30 home runs. How many guys can say that? It looks like he's actually down at third base 15. He's the 15th third baseman off the board so far. And yeah, he doesn't steal bases, and the batting average is always a little bit iffy. He's hit 238 in 2024. He hit 205 in 2022. The other 2 seasons here, kind of alternating, he's hit 250 and 257. So you should be able to get 250 with 25 homers out of him and a decent amount of RBIs. So I like him. It's just that there's some risk there. If the batting average comes in low, then all of a sudden he's kind of helping you only in 1 or 2 categories because the steals. He's got 2 steals in his career. So, but yeah, the king of air pool. He's the guy to, you can teach your boys. If you got young boys and you want to add some power or add some home runs to them, like, you're going to try to tell them to pull that ball in the air. And the guy you want to pull up for a right-handed kid, at least, would be the great Isaac Paredes, maximizing his limited power. I mean, pretty awesome stuff for him. Just a really fun player to watch. Now, if he does get traded, the park matters for him. Like, the park matters for him more than it matters for pretty much anybody, because all these home runs are pulled. So if he goes to a place where your pulled fly balls don't go for home runs at a high rate, like, he's a disaster. So Correa back with the Astros. Park upgrade, he kind of liked it with Houston. He went from Minnesota to Houston, which isn't the biggest park upgrade in the world. I mean, Twins are pretty neutral. Houston are somewhat neutral unless you're pulling a bunch of fly balls, but whatever. Maybe he just felt better. Maybe it was random. I don't know. But he hit 290 with the Astros. He slugged 430, hit 6 homers in 2 months. While with the Twins, he was hitting 23 batting average points below that, 46 slugging points behind that, and he hit only 1 more home run and almost double the plate appearance. So he was great with Houston. Is that right to expect? Probably not. He is a legit 0 in steals, so that matters for fantasy. He's one of 3 players with 2,000 plate appearances and 0 steals in the last 5 years. Trivia question: can you if you want to pause right now, who are the other 2? I'll tell you in like 5 seconds. But who are the other 2 players with no steals in the last 5 years while also seeing 2,000 plate appearances? Answer is Giancarlo Stanton and Josh Bell. So Correa, though, I mean, still a good hitter. 287 expected batting average, 344 expected WOBO. Hit the ball well. Just wasn't really getting the ball out of the park. So the projection is 16 homers and 2 steals. This is a good one to pull up the different systems. If you go on the web app that I have for paid subscribers, you can see all the projection systems put together. Once again, it seems like I am just higher on so many. Every guy I look at, it seems like I'm the highest guy. Which maybe there's a problem. I don't know. I got it for 19 homers and a 266 batting average, 2 steals, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to get him 2 steals because he doesn't have one. So I don't know. I'm probably, some things to patch up for sure, but whatever. A 2 steal projection isn't much different than a 0. Steamer has him for 16 homers, although less playing time. Steamer's always very low on playing time. The bat has 565 plate appearances. I'm seeing more plate appearances from me, so maybe that's what it's about. Anyway, the bat, 565 plate appearances, 15 homers. Oops, he's got him for 17 homers and about the same playing time. So the bat's the only one with 0 steals. Shout out to him. But I don't know. Just because you have 0, if you have 0 in 4 straight seasons, is the most likely next number still 0, or could he get 1? I mean, 1, sometimes you're just part of a double steal or something. You're just following the guy on second. You're not even really trying to steal, but you get 1. So anyway, 260 to 270 batting average with probably 15 to 20 home runs, no steals. Hopefully you're kind of just hoping for like 130 runs plus RBI, but he's not, he's probably a standard league guy, but he's not someone to really like reach for or anything. I think the price is nice on him. I'm perfectly fine with grabbing him in deep leagues and stuff. The ADP is 274, so he's well within the top 300. He could have a nice season. I mean, I do think he could hit 22, 23 homers if he stays healthy, drive in 80 runs or something like that. If Altuve, him, and Jordan and Pena all stay healthy, it's pretty good top of the lineup. So you could have a decent season from Correa. He's not someone you're going to regret not drafting, I don't think, but he could definitely be one of these Springer type guys, or not Springer because he won't steal any bases, but he could be that veteran that people kind of have let slide for a long time, and then he has a big year because the skills are still there. He's still somewhat young, 31 years old. Cam Smith, big fan of him. He'll be on the breakouts list just because. I'll keep it real short and sweet here. 23-year-old former first-round pick, got to the majors really, really quick. Really struggled last year. I mean, a 358 slugging, 9 homers, 8 steals, and 493 plate appearances. But it's just the perfect kind of, not the perfect situation, but he's that second-year prospect, the post-hype prospect or whatever. First-round talent, hits the ball hard, runs fast, good athlete. I just think he'll really benefit from that first year. Learn some lessons, adjust, get better, improve, and you can get a pretty nice price on him right now. 321 ADP for Cam Smith. I don't see the risk there. Like, take him, see what's going on early on, because the upside is massive for him if he figures it out. So that's kind of the exact type of guy I want to invest in. Now, the StatCast page isn't pretty. All the expected stuff was bad too, but that's even more reason, because people are just not, if he had red bars on this expected WOBA, expected slugging and stuff, like, people would be buying in. He wouldn't have this ADP, but and you'd rather have it. You'd rather have those things for sure, but that doesn't tell you, just because you have a bad expected slugging doesn't mean you can't, like, with adjustments, with figuring it out, with actually, getting the experience needed to adjust against this major league pitching that you'd never seen before. Like, that stuff turns around in a hurry as well. It's not like you can't add on a ton to your expected stats too. It's just a matter of knowing which pitches to swing at, identifying them better, and hitting the ball with a better swing, whatever, adjust your swing, and get all that valuable experience and seeing major league pitching. So I think the upside is just way too high, is way up there for a 320 ADP price, but a lot more written about him in the written article, and you can go there. So the pitching, let's skip over to the pitching again. I wrote up a bunch of other guys on the written article, MLBDataWarehouse.com, to get the whole thing. Hunter Brown, this is an interesting situation, and it's one of kind of the MLB Data Warehouse golden rules or something. I don't, like, something that I do that I don't see a lot of other people do is kind of adjust these K rates for the swinging strike rate. And I'm always kind of pointing out guys. I like looking for the guys with high K rates and low swinging strike rates, or vice versa, because the K rate seems to follow that swinging strike rate. And Hunter Brown was like the biggest outlier on that. There's an article on MLBDataWarehouse.com called Count Dominance that measures the percent of times a pitcher gets to a 0-2 count and compares it with the percent of the time they get to a 3-0 count, and it subtracts them. And Hunter Brown was really bad at that. He was not getting ahead. He had a 12.5% swinging strike rate. He had a 46.3% strike rate. That's below average. He had a 38.2% ball rate. That's way above average, way worse than average, I should say. and yet he had a 28% K rate. So if you tell me that a guy has a 12.5% swing strike rate and a 38% ball rate, I'm going to be like, that's probably a 23% K rate with like a 9% walk rate. And yet he was way better at both. So I don't know. Maybe he's just some special case where he like just waits till he gets to 2-0 or 3-1 and then he starts like being dominant, or maybe he's just crazy good when he gets to 0-2. But I think much more likely we're going to see like 4-point reduction in strikeout rate next year and probably a point more on walk rate. So it's a total fade for me on that. Hopefully we're right, because that would prove some of this. That would be evidence for some of the methods we're using that are a little bit unique on. So you can read all about that there and in that count dominance piece. But I'm off Hunter Brown. The projection is still a 26.6% K rate for me, 3.96 ERA, and we got to go see what the other systems are saying, because that'll be pretty interesting for me to see. This thing is still ugly. I thought I fixed that last week. See, we're finding problems. Really ugly looking table here. But anyway, every other system's around 26% K rate. So we're all saying that he won't do quite as good, but I think these projections could be wrong. I think he could have a pretty disappointing year for the cost, at least. So I don't know. He's still probably a top 25 starting pitcher in the ranks at the end of the day, but I'll be pretty low on him. Mike Burrows is here. I like him. We'll see what the Astros change. I think they might be adding a sinker or something. The story with him was that he had a fine fastball, not great with the Pirates, but he has the velo there to make it better, and his changeup is just absolutely amazing. So that's the story with him. A lot of upside. The Astros seem to like him. They made him the main return in the trade that sent away Jacob Melton. And I don't know, Roster Resource has him as like competing for the SP5, but I don't see that. I think he's, I think it's Brown. I think it's then after that, it's like Ime, the new guy, or Burrows. And then it's McCullers, Javier, or whatever. Maybe they just want to see McCullers and Javier early on, and maybe they just guarantee them spots just to kind of see what they have, because they have to make some long-term decision on those guys. They've been around for a long time, but I think Burrows is easily in the major league rotation at the beginning, and I would buy some shares of him there for sure. Javier Arrighetti, I guess we do have Arrighetti here as well. So there's a little bit of a crowd, I suppose, especially after the Ime acquisition. So there'll be some competition and stuff, but Arrighetti, didn't he finish hurt? He finished the year with elbow inflammation. So that's a little bit scary. We'll have to see in spring. A lot of question marks in this Houston rotation. And none of these guys are outside of Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown's definitely good. The rest of these guys are going to be real like question marks, guys we need to figure out early on. Probably a fine rotation overall, probably like, maybe like 20th best in the league or something like that. There's plenty of guys that can, and probably 3 or 4 of them will end up having decent seasons, but outside of Brown, there's really no solidity. So I like Burrows, but all these other guys, like I'm not really buying into. Arrighetti's really cheap, but I'm not buying into Javier or AJ Bluebaugh. He's written up here too. So I don't have any, like, I'm targeting Burrows for sure, and I'm fading pretty much everybody else, I think. Ime, I don't know wonder what the ADP looks like on him. There's always that little bit of allure with the guys that come over from Japan, and especially after the Yamamoto thing, although Sasaki kind of went the other way, but there is upside with these guys that come over. But Ime is not comparable to Yamamoto in my eyes. I wrote a whole article about him, and I kind of see him just like as a more of a major league SP3 or SP4, kind of a Merrill Kelly type, something like that, rather than having crazy upside. And his ADP after signing is 150 to 160. He's between 150 and 170 every time. It's actually a pretty tight range for someone we haven't seen, which is surprising. But I would let someone else do that. I don't think you have the upside to warrant it. And it's quite possible that he just doesn't do well against major league hitters. But morally, probably he'll be fine. I mean, they gave him a big contract. They think he'll be okay. I don't think he's got ace upside, and kind of he's almost priced like he does have a little bit of that. So that's it for the Astros. That's all we're going to talk about at least, but tons more names mentioned in here. I got to add the prospects to this too. I got to make sure I clean some of this stuff up before we publish, but let's talk about the Mets. It was a very disappointing season for the Mets last year. The big Soto acquisition, they spent a ton of money. They were the big spenders of last off season. And they didn't make playoffs, right? I mean, I think it came down to the last day. They were really close. They could have sneaked in there, but they just didn't have the pitching. It was rough. The offense was good, but now they lose Pete Alonso, and they're coming into 2026 with Nolan McLean, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, some mixture of those five. Brandon Sproat maybe works in. Maybe they add a free agent or two. This is not when I didn't want to be talking about the Mets on January 12th because free agency still has several weeks to go before we get into spring. Before things are all settled, we're still more than a month away from that time period. So, I mean, Kyle Tucker's still out there as I write this, as I do this today. Framber Valdez is still out there. So I think the Mets probably land. I mean, Valdez makes a lot of sense. I think they land someone else, and we're going to end up being having published this with a couple key names not in it. But we're going in order of the standings, so they should have just won more games to give us more time. But we're going to do it, and we'll adjust everything as things comes in. But without Alonso, the lineup looks not great. It's Lindor, Semien, Soto, Polanco, Vientos, Beatty, Alvarez, Bench, Taylor. I mean, there are many worse lineups, and that's pretty good depth. I mean, Francisco Alvarez, Tyrone Taylor, Carson Bench as your bottom three is pretty good. Like, that's better than plenty of other lineups bottom threes. But outside of Soto and Lindor, you don't have stud hitters. Now, again, would half the league trade their lineup for this one? Yeah. But it's not the Mets. It's not a $400 million payroll looking roster or whatever. It doesn't look like a division winning team. Now, maybe they'll add on, I still think. And could this team win a division with this? I don't think it's impossible. Phillies getting worse. You have to say the Phillies are getting worse, right? Just because Wheeler's hurt and pretty old, and you probably won't get him back the way he has pitched forever. They Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, they're really getting up there in age. Schwarber returns, which was the big key for them, but he's also coming off like a career best year at 33 or whatever it is. So it doesn't seem like the Phillies are gonna like 100-win team, and the Braves, they've just had their struggles. So I don't know. That division's pretty wide open between those three teams. And with one or two additions, I mean, if they add I don't think they're going to get Tucker. I don't think they're going to sign the big name, but Framber Valdez on a 3 or 4 year deal makes a lot of sense. If they do that, they can improve in a hurry is the point. But let's talk about who they have right now. Juan Soto, I'm calling him a bust. That's a little bit of a spoiler. He'll be on the busts article. And that's only because he is going as the number 4 overall player in drafts this year. He's going behind Ohtani, Judge, and Witt. He's ahead of J-Ram, Skubal, Carroll, Acuna. And this is in 5x5 standard roto where on-base percentage isn't even a category. Like, that's not a good pick in my opinion. Now, he's probably safer. Yeah. He's definitely safer than all the guys behind him. J-Ram, Carroll, Acuna, Ellie. But he's not going to steal these bases again, right? That's the point. He's coming off a career season, 43 homers, 37 steals. His previous career high in steals before that was 12. I just think he comes back down to like 12 steals. I think these projection systems are going to be over. Let's actually look at what they say. I think every projection system except mine, because I forced this in, is going to be like 5 to 10 steals too high. Although it looks like the other systems have kind of accounted for this too. Oopsie's the high system at 22 steals. Steamer's at 20. The Bat's at 16. I'm at 15. And I could see, like, why would we think that all of a sudden, oh, he's a Met now, all of a sudden he's a 30 steals guy? Like, last year in 2024, in the contract year, mind you, like 7 steals. So is it a Mets thing, or was it just I think most likely it was like he was a little bit more aggressive early on, but then all of a sudden he looked up and he had 15 steals in June or whatever it was, and he's having a career year in homers and stuff too. He's like, well, dang, like Ohtani just did this 50-50 thing. Like maybe I'll show him. Maybe I'll go for 40-40. I'll show him I can do that too. And then after that, the snowball starts rolling, and then you're like just chasing milestones and stuff. So I think the steals come way down. And also in a batting average league, like he's hit. Juan Soto has hit 242. He has hit 263 last year. He hit 242 in 2022. Now, the other two between those 2 years were 275 and 288. He hit 313 in 2021. So the range is just super wide. But he's not Bobby Witt. He's not Trey Turner, Stephen Kwan, whatever. He's not this kind of reliable batting average guy. Now, it's not going to go below. I don't think he'll hit 240 again. But it's, he can hit 250. He can hit 260. He can hit mid-30s home runs with 10 steals. Is that a fourth overall pick in a league where you don't get credit for the walks or the OBP? Like, no chance. 18% walk rate the last 3 years between 17 and 19%. But that's not great in the leagues where you're not getting direct points for walks or OBP. So I think it's kind of nuts to take him at number 4. Unless you're just really the argument is that, okay, he's the most safe hitter probably in the league. He's probably the most skilled guy with the bat in his hands, like getting on base, doing things. So he's very safe. You're not going to have a bad year from him. But if he repeats, I mean, it's just say 2022. If you look at that season of Soto, 2022, 242, 27 homers, 6 steals, that's pretty terrible as a top 5 pick. That would hurt. He did have a 401 OBP, but again, if we're talking about leagues where you don't have OBP or you don't have points for walks, then like it's too high for me. Lindor, also another like potential bust-ish. When you say bust, you're really talking about guys that won't meet their draft value, their draft capital, what they cost. And I'd say Lindor at age 32 with this history of hitting 250, 260, he hit 230 in 2021. Like batting average has never been great. He's a 30-30 guy. He's got at least 31 homers and at least 29 steals in each of the last 3 years. The K rate dropped to 17.9% last year. The walks came up a little bit. He hit 31 homers, slugged 463. So very good. I'm not saying he'll have a bad season, but could you just start seeing him tick down a little bit? Could you see him be like 25-20 as a 33-year-old rather than this 30-30 guy? And maybe he only hits 260. Maybe the Mets kind of aren't that good. Yeah, I could see it kind of being a tough, not the best stat line at the end of the year for a guy that goes in the second or third round. So a little bit off of him. I'm not opposed to drafting him. Certainly would take him in the third round if I needed a shortstop. And the projection is still 28 homers, 21 steals, 268 batting average, 100 runs, 76 RBIs. Pretty great, but just not quite the ceiling I would like from a second round pick. And I think with a little bit more downside than upside for Lindor is what I'm saying. Francisco Alvarez, kind of a big fan of his. You go read about it, MLBDataWarehouse.com. Just huge raw power from a catcher. That's pretty cheap. Jorge Polanco, I think the price isn't, I was going to say you're buying high. The price isn't expensive. People are being pretty fair on him, but he subtracted 14 points off his K rate last year in the contract year. Now, I do believe he was kind of hurt in 2024. He had 29% K rate in 2024 with the Mariners, and then last year with the same team with the Mariners comes down to 15.6% and kind of breaks out. 26 homers last year. I just think he's likely at age 32, turning 33, to go back to what we saw. The average between 2022 to 2024 was like 20-ish homers, 6, 7, 8 steals, and a pretty bad batting average. He hit like 240 between those 3 years. He was hurt a lot, so being healthy last year helped, and he's healthy for now, finished healthy, and the Mets gave him a lot of money, but not a lot of years. So I don't think you're going to regret fading Jorge Polanco. I think the downside's pretty significant. Again, like maybe he was hurt in 2024. Maybe that's what that was about, but the guy was legit bad. He wasn't a fantasy player you wanted. In 118 games, he hit 213, slugged 355, struck out 29% of the time. Now, I don't think that's going to repeat, but I think you're probably likely to end up somewhere in the middle of these last 2 years. The projection is about 24 homers, 246 batting average, 7 steals over a whole season. Homers are fine, like you like that, but it's nothing great. It's kind of a one category guy in that regard. Maybe the RBI total could be nice with the Mets. Vientos, Beatty, it'll be interesting to see like where those two end up playing. Right now with Semien in town, he's at second, and there's kind of some DH and third base reps for those two to split. It's a pretty logical platoon in my eyes. Let's just pull up the projections and I'll talk about them both. We'll put them on the screen. Vientos is the righty, Beatty's the lefty. I like Beatty's numbers a little bit better. I think he might be a little bit better of a hitter, but if they're going to do some platooning, which would make a lot of sense, both of these guys have struggled at times. Neither of them is a proven major league asset, but both big power with some strikeout issues. I think that's kind of what you see. I don't think you see Vientos starting every day against righties, and I don't think you see Beatty a ton against lefties. That is an advantage for Beatty as the lefty. Righties, 67 or whatever it is, 60 to 70% of major league starters are right-handed. So, the strong side platoon is the left-handed bat. But again, they have a DH open. Vientos can play first base if anything would happen to, maybe they don't want to play Polanco every day. Polanco is going to be the first baseman right after Alonso departs. So there is certainly a path to both of these guys playing 140 plus games. If with playing time were considered, well, either way, I'm taking Beatty over Vientos. The projections are about, let's do the 600 plate appearance projections. Let's do that for both these guys. I have Vientos for 27 homers. Oopsie has him for 26 homers. We're both at about a 245 batting average. We go over to Beatty. I've got him for 26 homers in the same plate appearance, in the same playing time. 7 steals, 243 average. Oopsie at 23 homers. 5 steals, 251 batting average. So I think Beatty hits the ball a little bit harder. I just think the skills are a little bit more interesting for him. But both guys could certainly be standard league guys. They both have big ceilings. They both just have really low floors, and there's no guarantee of playing time. So my guess is, again, that there's somewhat of a platoon there. They all kind of mix in, sit. They probably play 75% of the time out of the gate between third, DH, and maybe some first base reps on the part of Vientos. Maybe Beatty subs in at second base a little bit. And if something happens to Semien or Polanco, that's really good for one of these guys as well. But a lot more written about them. Carson Benj is someone to know. We talked about him on the top 25 redraft prospects podcast. We just did that a couple of days ago. So go back in your podcast feed if you want to learn about Carson Benj. Good prospect. We just got to find out if he's going to be in the opening day lineup or not. That'll be the big difference maker for your standard league drafts. If he is looking like he'll make the team out of camp, he's someone to draft, at least speculatively. I do expect, as always, like an adjustment period, but he has very good minor league profile across the board. Could be a 5-tool kind of player. Good stuff, but lots more on that on Tim's side of things here with the prospect stuff. And paid subscribers know where to go to get everything you need to know about these prospects and all the dashboards and stuff. Jeff McNeil, need to edit this before I publish it because he is on the Athletics now, but he's ranked and the projections are there for him. Let's go to the rotation. Nolan McLean for the Mets. He leads there. Probably the opening day starter. Maybe they give it to a veteran. I don't know. But, McLean came up in the majors, was very good. 48 innings, a 30% K rate, an 8.5% walk rate, 0.75 home runs per 9, 206 ERA, and a 104 whip. He was their ace if they had gone into the playoffs. I think you would have seen him leading off those series as their SP1. I've got problems, though, because his kind of the same situation we talked about with Hunter Brown. He had just a 12% swing and strike rate, which is below average, and yet a 30% K rate. So he's sinker heavy. I think he's definitely a ground ball guy. I mean, he had a 60% ground ball rate. So he's Jose Soriano-esque in that regard, like 95-mile-an-hour sinker and a curveball that gets a ton of ground balls as well, and a changeup as well that gets a ton of ground balls. So he's not going to give up a lot of home runs, and that keeps the ERA down all by itself. But this 30% K rate, you're just not going to see that again. I think he's a 24, 25% K rate guy with like an 8 to 9% walk rate. He's never been great at walks. His walk rate in the minors last year was 10.7%. Those can be wonky with AAA rules and stuff, but when he got to the majors, it was 8.5%. It was a 36.4% ball rate. So it was about league average ball walk rate stuff indicators. So I've got him. I don't know what my projection says. I do know what it says. It says 25% K rate, 8.3% walk rate. And yeah, I think that's fair. I think K rate could be a touch lower than that, but he'll probably also mess around, maybe add a 4-seamer, tweak some stuff. And it's a really good sinker. So maybe he just earns a high called strike rate with it always. I don't know, but I just think you shouldn't be buying with any thought that this guy's going to be a high strikeout guy. Yeah. I think he'll be a little bit above average, but I think the walk rate's going to be kind of mediocre at best. So you can see a low ERA, but I think you're going to get a bad whip, and who knows? It could all just go pretty poorly for him. I don't really like pitchers that I have to take as my SP1 or 2 that throw a lot of sinkers. They just don't get strikeouts. So he's overpriced in my eye. Kodai Senga, weird guy. Broke it down here. Go read about it. I think I'm going to call it here. Jonah Tong. Well, I got to talk about this Jonah Tong thing on the screen. Is this AI thing I made? I was feeling goofy one day, right? So he looked incredible in the minors. The minor league numbers were all elite, totally spectacular. I think he's one of our top ranked minor league pitchers. He's 22. 1.50 ERA in 114 innings. That's just insane. It was 40.5% K rate. It was a high walk rate, but who cares? With a 40% K rate. Like it was a 30% K to walk. In the majors was rough. 19 innings, 7.71 ERA, a 1.77 whip, but a 25% K rate was nice. 10% walk rate wasn't horrible. It's bad, but it's not like it wasn't like he couldn't throw a strike. Just gave up 1.5 home runs per 9. So I made this dumb AI graphic, putting him in like the what's this movie even called? The movie with the, you're not in Kansas anymore. Oh man, I'm looking at, they got the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow with no. Who was it? The Tin Man didn't have a heart. The Lion didn't have courage, and the Scarecrow dumb or something, didn't have a brain. What's that freaking movie called? I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about now because I said all that. So I made this. I told AI to put him in like a movie poster, and it says "You're not in Syracuse anymore," and he's all beat up. And then I tweeted it for fun, for the funsies, for the funnies, and people got real mad about it. AI. The people just say there's like this automatic response now, and they say AI slop. Like that's like the words that people just say, and it's like, can you think of your own words to describe something like? I get it. I get it. I was being mean to Jonah Tong, but I thought it was funny. So I just wanted to say that because Mets fans were really going after me for it. It's like, get over it, dude. It's a joke. So there you go. I don't like Jonah Tong. I think the fastball just looks like one that is going to play way better against worse hitters. The major leagues are going to kind of pick up the release point stuff in a hurry. And I don't really think he'll make the rotation. I think he'll kind of start back in AAA. So he could be great, no doubt, but I'm not buying in this year. And we're going to wrap it up there. Clay Holmstrom and I, David Peterson, and Brandon Sproat, all written up on here, and then the whole prospect stuff in that podcast. But we're going to close it out right there. And we will be back next time. A lot of more team previews coming out, but today you get Mets and Astros, and then there's probably a dozen more at this point, at least in terms to publish. So back with more of that as we barrel towards draft season. Peace out. Go to MLB.warehouse.com. Sign up today for everything you could need to know, everything you need about fantasy baseball and stuff. Or don't do that. I don't care. Do whatever you want.